I'm here to talk to you guys about why I think that higher education should be free for everyone in the U.S. I know from the surveys that we took that a lot of you guys are stressed about paying for school. I know that I certainly am. And, you know, I'm unsure about the future of my education at a four-year university, even a state school. In Germany and Finland, tuition is already free, and there are several other universities around Europe where the costs are far, far, far reduced, and to certain students, they will make it completely free. Since 1985, college tuition has risen 500%, according to the Washington Post. And the average cost for a year of tuition and living expenses in a four-year university for 1 year in the US is $36,564. How many of you guys can afford that? Literally zero. Okay. Same. So, other than cost, there are a number of reasons why I think that higher education should be free for everybody. The first one is that education is a right, not a privilege. I believe that very strongly, that everyone in the world deserves to learn about the world that we live in. It's a crazy world, and I think that we should all know as much about it as we can to make informed decisions. Higher education is known to increase the quality of life for people. As soon as you have a college degree, your chances for finding a job, other than in unique cases, is that much higher. And once you have a job, you can better yourself and raise your quality of living by a significant amount for yourself as well as family members. And that's really important. A more educated world is in everybody's best interests. Lack of education, directly and indirectly, accounts for so many of the world's problems. Josh Friedman wrote for Forbes magazine, "Free public undergraduate higher education solves many of the problems that plague the current system." I completely agree with him. I think that if more people were allowed to get a higher education, they would understand, for one, just one example, where their food comes from and what's in it. Most people, once they find out what is in the majority of their food, will have an inclination to try and avoid that stuff because a lot of it is bad. And the reason that so many companies that are destroying the food that we eat and big agriculture and stuff like that, they get their money from people who are uneducated about what they're eating and how it affects their body and how it affects the environment. Speaking of the environment, if more people understood about climate change, they would know what it takes to not further climate change and to not further destroy the earth that we live on. And again, so many of the reasons why people are allowing these things to continue, especially in our country, is lack of education. People simply don't know how their actions start to promote these things that are destroying the earth. If people are more educated about history and world cultures, there's going to be a lot less racism and sexism, and there's going to be people who are less inclined to make assumptions about other countries, and there's going to be a lot more acceptance. And in each of these cases, people would make better choices in their day-to-day lives in ways that would directly benefit their own community as well as the larger community, because we all learn by example. One benefit for, on the university side, why does it benefit the university system to make education free, is that the income for the school would be coming from different places other than students. It would be coming from private organizations and public organizations and companies, and the government, and so there's a reduced financial risk for the school. If the country goes into a depression or a recession, the university doesn't then have to rely on students, young people who are already in unstable situations. And so the school will suffer far less during an economic downturn than if they're funded from things other than just us students and our parents. Students of all income levels would be encouraged to attend school, and they'd be more likely to get accepted because the school doesn't have to worry about its own financial situation. And this, in my belief, is more of a personal belief, but I'm sure some of you share it, I know that other people who will share it, is that if people from all backgrounds and income levels are encouraged and allowed to attend higher education for free, I think it would be a huge step towards eliminating racism, sexism, classism, and ableism in our country. The reason I think this is that there's clearly a system in place that is not built for minorities. We can all know this, we've all seen examples of this. And part of that system is that you grow up in a certain community, and if your community as a whole doesn't go to college, if they can't afford to go to college, then you most likely are also not able to afford to go to college. And that reduces your chances for what you can do in the world. And you're going to stick to the same cycle of working low-wage jobs and not being able to afford to send your children to college. And because of the way that our country is set up, there's the stereotype, which in a lot of cases is almost a true one, that minorities are the ones who are filling those jobs. Minorities are the ones who are not able to afford to go to college. In a lot of cases. And so I think that if everybody in the United States is allowed to go to college, then we're going to start to eliminate these stereotypes of these minorities can only do the low-wage jobs, and then the rest of us can go to college and get jobs that are for people who have money. I hope that I'm getting this across right. Another one of the benefits, might be running out of time. Another quick benefit is cost control. When the schools are being funded publicly, there are clear limits as to what the school can spend their money on, so they can't just hide costs in tuition that rises every year. They can't spend money on crazy things or on salaries for higher level faculty and stuff like that without it being investigated and without it being just passed off onto tuition, and that's really important, I think. So I hope that you guys can agree with some of the things that I've said, and I hope that when it comes time for us to start making decisions about what happens in our country, which is very soon because we're all pretty much at a voting age at this point, and we're the ones who are going to start making the decisions for our country, that you take into account what I've said and that you push the country, which is already considering free education in a lot of cases, to make it more widespread throughout the U.S. I think that it would greatly, greatly benefit our country if education were more attainable.